there's this moment in time between all that labor has been and when the baby comes. It's a time that few really talk about that much, except in retrospect. It's a moment when many, many moms abandon their plans, not knowing how close they are to the finish line. So let's remove the mystery today and let's dive into what is known as labor transition. Let's go. Review time. I love this time. You know that. You know I love to hear from you. Today's review comes from LBVV. It's not really a name, but LBVV says, so refreshing. This podcast is so refreshing. I love hearing about pregnancy, birth, and nutrition from a Christian perspective. God knows what is best, and it's exciting when other people recognize that too. Lori has such a comforting voice, and I always learn something new. Thank you. Thank you, whatever your actual real name is, for leaving that review. That encourages me so much. It's funny that you say I have a comforting voice. I always say that my voice gets on my own nerves, so I hope that you like it. I'm glad that you do. It's actually funny. I'll tell you a quick story. Yesterday I think it was, my son had recorded a video of himself, and when he played it back, he cringed and he was like, "Oh, why do I sound like that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's what you always sound like." He said, "Oh, is that what you're talking about? How you sound different to yourself?" I'm like, "Yep, that's it." And he goes, "You have to listen to that all the time." It's such a real thing, but I'm so glad that it's comforting to you, and I'm glad that I'm able to help you, and I'm glad that God has given me this platform to be able to help you guys. Just remember what you already know. You know God made you. You know God made this process, but man, this world does a really good job of reminding or trying to make you forget that. Sometimes we just need reminding. So I'm glad that I can be a part of your journey. If you have not left me a review yet, could you please just take a quick second, head over to Apple Podcasts, leave me a quick 5-star written review. It helps me so much, helps me find other moms just like you who need this content, and it encourages me to keep on going. So today, this topic is one that I really don't find much information on out there, and so I bet you don't either. And I really just wanted to help you understand this phase of labor that's really a pretty quick phase. It's a phase that is over oftentimes before you know it, but it's also a phase that can really derail all of your plans. And as a midwife, it is very hard and it's very frustrating when you hear yet another story of a mom who decided to give in to the pressures of the interventions. She gets into the throes of labor and she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how close she is to the end. She gives in, especially if she's in a hospital where all the interventions are right there, and there are so many staff members who are all too happy to have her back in the routine. See, I hate hearing those stories because I know the regret that will come when that mom thinks back and knows they shouldn't have quit. Because see, in retrospect, you can see how close you were. You know that you were almost there. And yet in those moments, you are so very vulnerable. It's easy to give in at the slightest suggestion, or maybe even without a suggestion, just by looking over and knowing that there's stuff there that could help you, theoretically. Oh, how often the things that we give into in the throes of labor, in this transitional phase, oh, how often they're just not necessary. How often mom was there. She was at the cusp of being done. She was oh so close, and she just didn't know it. I want to help you understand what happens when you are almost there so that maybe you won't quit. Maybe you will recognize that you're almost there and you'll just keep going. You'll persist. Maybe you'll know that that little smile, that little smirk you might see on your midwife's face or on your doula's face, that smirk, that smile isn't there because, she's mocking you or anything else. It's there because she knows you're almost there. And maybe now you're going to learn what you need to know that you're there too, so that you just keep going. Let me lead in by saying I'm going to help you understand a lot here, but this is just a snapshot of a moment in the labor process. And to fully understand the flow, the whole picture, I can't encourage you enough to join me in the Your Birth God's Way online Christian childbirth education course, because in there I have the time to really piece together this entire flow from conception through pregnancy and into labor, through birth and into postpartum and breastfeeding and all that comes with that, all into the one huge picture. You need to be able to walk through this naturally God's way. And there's so much bad information out there and so much discouragement everywhere you turn. See, this course ensures that you have a toolbox full of evidence-based information from, and this is key, from a Christian worldview. There's no new agey stuff. There's nothing that makes you feel icky for participating in it, like some programs that are out there, big name programs that wear the name Christian, but are they? See, it's just the education that you need based on God's perfect design for you, so that you know that you know that you know that you know how to do this. So go get signed up over at go.yourbirthgodsway.com/CEC, either right now, or if you want to hit pause and then come back, that's fine, or go after the podcast, whichever, but you're not going to regret it. By the way, if you join now, our monthly live question and answer session is going to be next week. So you're going to sign up just in time to get to do a live Q&A with me to get your questions answered, maybe even before you get started. Okay, so if you get signed up, you'll get to come meet with me live then. So it's a great, great time to do that. All right, so now back to transition, because I just want you to understand that this is just a brief moment, but it's a make or break moment. Okay, there's a whole lot of other stuff that you need to understand, and in that course, I help you understand it. Just want to let you know that it's there. See, all through labor, you dilate and you dilate and you dilate. Your cervix thins out, it melts away, it goes away. It becomes part of the uterus that then starts to try to push your baby out. I say it becomes part of the uterus. It's been part of the uterus, but it kind of moves. The whole uterus gets stronger up at the top and it starts squeezing to push that baby down. And that whole dilation phase, it's inactive. And what I mean by inactive, I don't mean your body's doing nothing. I mean there's nothing that you can really do per se to help. You're just having to wait and trust. And that's great, but it's hard because you want to control it and you can't. And the more you try to control it, the slower it goes. So when that dilation phase is finally done, the uterus is finally open, you are ready to give birth. You're finally there. But see, funny things can happen to you at this point. They may throw you off if you're not ready for them. Okay? This is when you hit that wall. This is when you've been going and you hit that wall and you're like, I can't do it anymore. You often say things like, if you're at home, give me the hospital. Where's my epidural? Where's my ride? If you've seen The Business of Being Born, you know that Ricki Lake talks about that moment where she hears an ambulance go by. I think she lived in New York City. She hears an ambulance go by and she goes, that's my ride. It's just this make or break moment where you think you can't take it anymore. And yet you are actually right there. You might even say, I want an epidural, even though you had no plans to get an epidural. Even if you were the most staunchest of natural birthers that there are, at that moment, you very often will question, and you might question out loud. And if you question out loud, that's a very easy time for that suggestion to come in from someone who really doesn't believe in what you're doing anyway, to plant the seed that you don't have to do this. There's plenty of help available. You just feel like you can't go on. Support is essential at this point. Husbands, moms, doulas, hear me when I tell you, this is when you remind them of where they are in this process and what they want and how capable they are of having it. This is when you remind them that they are strong. This is where you look them in their eyes and you tell them they're almost there. Mama, you are almost there. You're almost there. You keep saying it. You keep telling them. As a midwife, when I hear moms start saying these things, I smile because I know we're almost there. It's also when we know encouragement is paramount, because this is where mom has to get through that wall and push forward. We cannot do it for her. All we can do is encourage her to keep on going and keep on going, both literally and figuratively, she has to push forward. Not just push the baby forward, but she has to mentally keep going and not quit. We don't want moms to look back and regret that they didn't make it, all because they misunderstand where they are in the process. After laboring however long this labor process has been, it can feel like you're never going to get there. And the intensity of these feelings can make a mom think that she's as far from the end as she's ever been, that she's not even started yet. She's that far from it. When really she's at the brink. She's there. Sometimes during transition, you get this rest and be thankful phase. And those are blessings because that's where contractions spread out some. And maybe she gets a little bit more time in between the contractions. Also, that can be discouraging when you're waiting for the next contraction and it's just not coming, but she doesn't realize she's in this phase of rest and be thankful. That's what we call it. When the baby is being moved down, maybe the uterus is all the way open, but the baby's still just a little bit high and the body's working on bringing the baby down and it's not doing as many contractions as that process happens. Sometimes during transition, it can continue on with more intensity, and the contractions can have more frequency because the baby's already low, and that fetal ejection reflex kicks in, making that pushing urge become involuntary. Pushing is actually a gift because it is a chance to do something. Remember earlier I said it's involuntary, and you just have to wait and just trust. When you get to the pushing phase, you can finally do something. You can be active, you can work with your body, and it's usually a relief to some degree. It's hard work, but it's a relief to have something to do. Some other sensations you might feel are things like a sudden need to vomit, which is lots of fun, right? Nobody wants to deal with that during labor, but if you haven't been feeling that at all of a sudden you feel sick to your stomach or like you're going to throw up, that's actually a sign. It happened to me, I think, just with my first baby, but it was funny because I thought I was still just about 3 or 4 centimeters, and all of a sudden I felt like I had to throw up. I was already transitioning because I was going pretty fast. So having to vomit out of nowhere is a sign. Another sign is things like trembling, just kind of like this uncontrollable shaking. It's a nervous response. And when I say nervous, I don't mean like you're nervous about it happening, but a response from your nerves that causes you to shake and tremble. Basically, any sensations that overcome you that feel like they're out of nowhere, that are almost like the straw that broke the camel's back, where you're like, I can't take anything else. This is it. I'm done. Whenever that kind of a feeling and that kind of a thought comes over you, that is a good sign that you're getting close. No matter how it goes for you, the main thing I need you to absorb is that transition is a time when you might have thoughts and feelings that you don't expect. But instead of facing it with despair, you can face it with encouragement, knowing that these unusual feelings and sensations are a sign that you are almost there. Push through. Keep going. Don't give up. You are so close, and it's all going to be worth it. Make sure that your husband or your support person listens to this episode so that they know it too. So they know to encourage you and to remind you, to empower you to stay the course. Because, Mama, listen to me when I tell you, you can do this. God made you to do this, and He put inside of you everything that you need. Lean on Him, talk to Him, lean on His strength, and lean on the knowledge that you've gained here. And then strongly consider joining me in the course so that you have even more knowledge and even more empowerment in your back pocket to strengthen you to walk boldly through your labor, through the transition, through birth, and through postpartum as God's woman in His strength. I hope that encourages you. And I hope so much that I will see you in the live question and answer session next week when you join my course, because you are going to walk through this so boldly and so strongly. And I love hearing the stories of the moms who are now on the other side of birth, because there's a lot of them by now. We started this course a year and a half ago. There's lots of moms who are now having even toddlers running around who can tell you and do tell you on the website themselves that this course truly helped them remember all that we know intuitively, all that God put in us intuitively, but all that the world tries to discourage us from and make us forget. So, Mama, I want to see you there. I want you to be the next one to have that story. So come join me in the course. The links are all in the show notes below, and I'll see you right back here next week. And let me just give you a teaser for next week. I've had several of you ask me about how to decide if the world of birth work is right for you, whether it be as a doula or as a midwife or some sort of birth keeper, something like that. Somehow, just in this last week, I've had several different people ask me about that. So next week, we're going to talk about that a little bit, give you something to chew on as we head into the Christmas season. So if that sounds interesting, or even if it doesn't, even if that's not something that you ever would think you would consider, listen anyway, because you never know what you might pick up for someone else who might be interested in it. And it's really just a good look at what this world is so you can understand that as well. So I hope to see you right back here next week. And again, check out all those links down in the show notes, all kinds of good stuff there for you, lots of free stuff, lots of stuff where you can join me to go deeper, all down in the show notes. See you next week.